Thanks for being here. My name is Jennifer Murphy, and I know I've got my helpers, Christine and Jane. They're going to be helping me with the Q&A a little bit later. So I'm grateful that they're here. And so, again, my name is Jennifer, and I am in Texas. I'm an official. And this is actually my second career. I was a teacher and a school librarian for 19 years. And then I just decided that I'd had enough and I needed a change. And so a friend of mine who had been a court reporter for about 14 or 15 years said, "Hey, we have a shortage of court reporters. Have you ever considered that?" And so I looked into it and I started court reporting school. I was actually a machine student, went through theory and started on my speeds. And then I decided that I needed to get out of court reporting school. So my instructor said, "Hey, have you ever thought about switching to voice?" And so I was kind of a little bit hesitant, but she told me about it. And then I thought, you know what? That might be a better fit. So let me give it a try. And so I did, and I hadn't looked back, and I love it. So one of my passions is to educate and spread information about uh, voice writing, and hope that's why we're here, so you can learn a little bit about it. So what the goal is today is to kind of explain what voice writing is and how it works, and also how to get started if you think that you might want to learn more about it or give it a try. So we're going to do, after this intro, I'm going to play a video that goes through a PowerPoint that I think is pretty informative and will explain things pretty well. And then after that, we're going to do a Q&A session. And that should bring us to the end of the hour. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started with the information.
Well, thank you again for joining us for this voice writing webinar and to learn more about this method of writing and court reporting. Now, we're going to do three things today. Our objective is to explain and demonstrate the voice writing method, and also we want to provide a starting point for people who say, this is something that I'd like to know more about, or I think I'd like to give this a try. So we are going to cover what voice writing is and how it works. We're also going to cover what jobs are available as a voice writer. And we're also going to let you know where to find schools and what you need to consider when you're choosing a program if you decide that this might be for you. So, quick disclaimer, the National Verbatim Reporters Association, or the NVRA, is not sponsoring this. This is totally me and my team. But according to the NVRA, voice writers receive skill-focused training on how to use their voices to capture the record. And upon completion of training, voice writers are then tested for audibility and accuracy, and the NVRA upholds them and maintains the gold standard for voice writer court reporters. This standard is equivalent to those set by the National Court Reporters Association, or the NCRA, for machine stenographers. So let's talk just briefly about some methods of reporting. Now, technology has come a long way from the stenopad and pen stenography to the machines with the paper and the long reams of paper that you might see on TV. And now the machines have been, this is my student machine from when I was in machine school. And as you can see, it's got a limited number of keys, and each of the keys represents a specific sound or a combination of sounds. So when you're writing on the machine, you would press or stroke a combination of keys to get your sounds, your words, your letters, and your phrases. Now, In voice writing, that involves a reporter or a writer speaking into a steno mask. And then these spoken words are then transcribed into written text using a voice recognition software. We use Dragon SRE, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. And then in combination with a CAT software, a computer-aided transcription software like Eclipse or Case Catalyst or ProCat, whatever software, then you get your written text. Now, I will say this method is and probably can be faster than traditional stenography on the machine for some practitioners. And the reason why is because with the machine, you are basically learning a new language. And with voice writing, we've been talking since we were little bitty, 1 year, 2 years old, or whatever. And so we've been talking our whole lives, and we can talk fast, and we don't have to learn a whole new language. We can shorten our writing with briefs and phrases, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit too. But for the most part, we're using a skill that we've had our whole lives. So let's talk about AI and Dragon SRE and the differences. So we all know Siri, we all know Google, we all know Alexa, we all know those. So how is that different than just, are those different than Dragon? So let's talk about that. User training. So we can improve the accuracy of Dragon SRE. SRE stands for Speech Recognition Engine, and it's specialized. So it can be trained to recognize our specific voice and speech patterns. And we'll do an initial dictation, and we'll train certain words, and Dragon learns from that. And then we can do additional training of different phrases and words, and we add to our vocabulary and to help improve our real time. And Dragon works with that. We teach our Dragon, we train our Dragon. And Dragon incorporates a feedback loop where the system learns from corrections by the user. So if Dragon doesn't quite give us exactly what we want, we'll say, no, Dragon, this is what we need. And we train it, we teach it, and the system will use that feedback to improve its accuracy over time. And again, Dragon kind of molds itself to us. So my Dragon user would not necessarily work well for somebody else, and vice versa. Now, Dragon is designed to integrate with various applications like Word or CAT software, like computer-aided transcription software, like I was saying, Eclipse, Case Catalyst, ProCat, SpeechCat. Just there's a lot out there, and that's another lesson for another day. But it also supports voice commands. So we can not only can we dictate directly into the word processors and those CAT softwares. Okay, so how does it work? So the Dragon SRE or speech recognition engine, it works by using advanced algorithms to convert the spoken word into written text. And what that means is that they can learn and make predictions independently, but they are not inherently intelligent. They don't have the brains like we do. So they have to be guided and trained by us. And they are limited to, they do have their limitations and their biases. So that's where we come in. And that's why it's so important to have a human brain behind all of this. So Dragon, just like other applications of AR, learns from its user's speech patterns and voice commands, and it gets better over time, but it will forget what it has learned if the user does not frequently provide it with information, if you don't continue to work with it, to train it. We call it feeding our Dragon, where we give it context and clean documents to learn from. And so we have to constantly work with it. It's not a one and done. So how does a speech recognition engine actually work? So first step is the audio input. And this is when the user speaks into the microphone and it's connected to the computer. And then those spoken words are then captured as the audio output. And then that audio output, the Dragon takes that audio output, breaks it down into the smaller units like phonemes. So phonemes are the basic sounds of our language. In English, a, I, t, s, g, b. Those Dragon takes all those, it breaks it down, and then it puts it together. It uses the acoustic modeling to, it characterizes our voice, like with our voice's pitch, our tone, our accent. And then these acoustic model, it makes an acoustic model, and that helps the Dragon distinguish between these different sounds, because my speech pattern is not Susie Q's speech pattern, which is not Joe Smith's speech pattern, and vice versa. We all sound different. We all have a different pitch. We all have a different tone. We all have a different cadence and accent. So Dragon, Dragon takes all of that into account. So Dragon also employs language models that contain information about the structure and patterns of the language. So that means like grammar and context. So this means that Dragon learns from the context of our language to learn what's correct, the correct words to put. And AI systems can learn and make predictions independently, but again, they're not inherently intelligent the way we are. And again, this is kind of a repeat of the other screen. They can learn, but they don't have the brains, and they can forget. It's kind of like you use it or lose it. Okay. So that means it's always a work in progress. Okay, so what do we do with all of that? So the combination of the acoustic and language modeling allows Dragon to convert this audio input into written text. And this is the speech to text conversion phase. And this is where the software, the CAT software or the word processing software, it generates the text based on what the audio input it receives. So now that we've talked about how the process actually works with Dragon, now let's talk about what jobs can you get as a voice writer. Well, pretty much anything you want. The sky's the limit. You can work in a private or public institution, like you can work in the legal, scientific fields, medical, business, entertainment fields. You can transcribe podcasts, lectures, radio talk shows. There are just so many opportunities. You can work for local or state governments. You can work for universities and provide CART services for deaf and hard of hearing users or students, and you can caption television shows, you can caption lecture speeches, religious services. Some people work for an organization and are employees, and some are freelancers and they're independent contractors. And of course, you've got your court stenographers, and they make a verbatim legal record of legal proceedings and produce those transcripts of the proceedings. And they can work in a courtroom as an official, court reporter of record. And some court stenographers work as freelancers and take depositions, or they might sub in court as deputy court officials, or we call them deputy court officials where I am. And I actually am an official, and I work for one judge, but that's different too. It depends on your state and your county and where you're located. So another piece or another opportunity is the CART provider and captioner. As a CART provider or captioner, one can provide TV captioning, captioning for sports, captioning for any public meeting. And I've been told the biggest chunk of work for CART comes from colleges. You're also able to provide CART services for things like IRS meetings, churches, webinars, conferences, etc. Like I said before, the sky's the limit. And this is a really, really important piece to help provide access, communication access for certain members of our community. Okay, so now maybe your interest has been piqued a little bit and you're thinking, I think I might like to look into this and I think I might like to go down this road and be a voice writer. So now, where to find your schools, where to learn how to do this. So again, there's a disclaimer. NVRA.org does have a list of schools, but NVRA does not accredit or endorse any court reporting schools or programs. This list is being provided as a resource to prospective students seeking information on schools and programs that offer voice writing and curriculum. NVRA does not guarantee or make any warranty, express or implied, regarding the accuracy, reliability, or completeness of information included in the sites, nor does NVRA accept any responsibility for any loss, damage, or expense resulting from or related to the use of this information. The inclusion of external hyperlinks does not constitute endorsement or recommendations by NVRA of the linked web resources or the information, products, or services contained therein. So just what that means is that it's up to you to do your own research and find out what school is the best match for you. So here's some things to consider when you're choosing a training program. So first of all, what is the length of the program? How long is the program going to last? And how is this going to fit into your schedule? So that's going to depend on what stage of life you're in. If you're somebody who is 18, 19, 20 years old, fresh out of high school, you may have a little bit more time than somebody who is already a working professional looking for a second career and that works full time. Like me, I was a full-time school librarian. I was a classroom teacher before that, and I spent several years as a school librarian, and then I needed a change, and so I had to choose a program that would offer night classes and online. So do they have a brick and mortar? Are they online? Most schools are going online right now. So that's another thing that you need to consider. Teaching method. Do they teach academics or just how to write? Do they teach terminology? Do they teach court reporting procedures? How to produce a transcript? All of that. Are you going to have other skills when you get out of that program? Are you going to know how basically what to do with those skills? Because learning how to do voice writing and learning how to produce a transcript, if you're going that direction into the legal field, that's important. So you need to decide, look at what they teach. Also, the cost. Do they accept financial aid? Do they offer payment plans? And also, do they provide the software and equipment for you? Is that included in the cost of the program? Those are extremely important considerations too, because you got to have your equipment. That's the next thing. What equipment do they use? Do they use and teach the latest software and technology? And a school that gets you on Dragon from day one or as close to day one as possible is preferable. So another thing that's important to do is network. Talk to current and past students. Join Facebook groups. Network and see, if you can find people or students, people that have gone through your the program that you're looking at, and just kind of find out their experiences. So those are very important. These are all very important things to consider. So there is also a list of questions that you need to ask. Are the classes offered in a brick and mortar school, online, or a combination? And again, some of these are a repeat. What are the programs being offered? Has the school received state accreditation or licensing? We talked about financial aid. Oh, does this program accept transfer credits? That will, if they do, say you've had some college, like me, I started when I was 40. I had a master's degree. And so I had a lot of credits that transferred just for some basic things. And then, so that helped cut down the cost a little bit for me. Does your school offer evening classes for those who work full time? Is there an internship or externship requirement? And if so, who arranges that? Is it something you have to do on your own, or is that done through the school? Now, I will tell you that next to learning the skill of voice writing and learning the academic portion of court reporting or your program, shadowing an internship or externship is the next important thing, because you learn by doing. That's the most, so that's another important opportunity. If they have it, you want to see if that's something that they offer. Does the program offer job placement assistance? What is the placement rate for success upon successful completion of the program? Does the program that your school does your school provide opportunities to meet firm owners, have a career night? You know, what companies are recruiting at that school? Will they do presentations for students at that school? Are you able to speak with an instructor? This is where the networking comes in. Is there a mentoring program for current students? And does the program's cost include all the software, hardware, laptop, etc. that's needed to complete the program? And this is another thing. Is it a full install version or of software, or a student version? So what that means is, my program, they gave us the professional Dragon. So that's what I've used the whole time. Now, the CAT software that they gave us was a student version. So once you get close, once you finish your program and you get certified, but you're ready to go out and work, you'll have to upgrade to the full version, and that's a cost that you do need to keep in mind. But that's later on down the road. So I wanted to show you my friend Karin, who is a wonderful, wonderful captioner. She captions all kinds of meetings, and she does it remotely. So you'll notice she does not use a StenoMask, but she uses an open headset, and that is because she is in a remote location, so she can do that. And this is her captioning a meeting. So let's just take a look, and I want you to listen to how she is dictating.
But for the first, vaccine in class that is preventing some disease, Kusky, sometimes it is hard to come up with what is an appropriate success criteria. Kriski, Parmaki. A lot of times the sponsor comes in that says we want the lower bounds for the efficacy to be greater than 0 Pirk. There is nothing out there, Pirk. Anything is better than nothing, right, Kriski? But then think about it, Pirk. If the lower bound is greater than 0, Kusky, if something is just 1% better than nothing, Kusky, is that meaningful? Kriski, is there any utility in the vaccine? Kriski, what is the minimum lower bound for vaccine efficacy? Kriski, that would be meaningful, that we want to see. Pirk, there's going to be a lot of discussion on that when designing the phase 3 study, Pirk. And then finally, as we go into the late phase, we want to make sure the sponsor thinks about how they are addressing the pediatric population, Pirk. A lot of times when they come in with the initial BLA, it is like in the adult population, because that is usually the age group of the study, first Pirk. But we want to make sure as they are progressing in clinical development, Kusky, they are thinking about all the other populations, including the pediatric population, Parmac. Okay, and finally, now we are at the BLA review, Pirk. This is sort of our goal. Kusky, the end game, Pirk. And this is going to be a very involved and lengthy review, Pirk. It is the review of the data package, and this is based on our own independent analysis of the data sets to conclude, is the product safe and effective? Kriski, does the data support the syndication that is sought? Kriski, as we are looking at the results, Kusky first. Kusky, did the study meet its pre-specified endpoints? Kriski, usually for the endpoints, Kusky, maybe they did not meet them, but there could be a pathway to licensure, even if.
Now we're going to do an exercise with some dictation, and you should have received this template with your email. So if you were able to cut it out and fold it and tape it, then you can use that. If not, you can use the the red, like a solo cup or something with a little hole poked in the bottom. So we'll have that practice dictation in just a moment. So let's talk about voice codes. So when we're writing, we use voice codes. And the voice code is what you will speak into your mask. And then the translation is what appears in your software. And some of our voice codes that we use are keek, cack, and spee, among many, many others. But keek is very commonly used by voice writers for the question bank. And cat is commonly used for answer. I personally use Kiko because Kiko works better for me. My dragon likes me when I say Kiko. And I use Kako for my answer bank. Again, because my dragon likes that better. But I do use SPE1, SPE2, SPE3, SPE4, and so on to identify my speakers. So what does that look like when you're writing? So it looks like this. So using Keek and SPE1, so Keek SPE1, please state your name for the record. Cack, my name is Robert Smith. Keek, Mr. Smith, comma, could you indicate your age? Cack, I'm 51. Judmac, that would be a voice code for the court. So I use Judmac for the judge or for the court, Bailey Mac for the bailiff, Clerk Mac for the clerk, and I also have one for me, Report Mac. So those are different voice codes that I would use commonly. So this would be Judmac, Mr. Smith, comma, I'm going to ask that you sit closer to the microphone so we can hear you better. Okay, so now are you ready? Let's do a little practice. You can use either your paper template that you'd made, that you cut out and taped, or you can use your solo cup with the hole at the bottom. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it now becomes my duty to instruct you as to the law in this case. You are the sole and exclusive judge of the facts, and it is your sworn duty to take the facts in the case as you have found them to be and apply the law as I give it to you. The statements of counsel are not evidence. In their final arguments, the attorneys have given you their best interpretation and recollection of the facts. This is their opinion of the facts in this case. However, it is your recollection that governs. From time to time during the course of the trial, it has been my duty to rule on the admissibility of evidence. Please do not infer from any of my rulings that I have an opinion one way or the other in this case, as I have comments on the facts and evidence before you. If I have given you any idea that I have an opinion regarding this case through any of my actions, facial expressions, tone of voice, or in any other manner, I apologize. Please do not regard that as my having any opinion in this matter, because I am neutral in this case and have no opinion how the case should be decided. There are only two types of evidence from which you may decide the facts of the case. One is direct evidence and the other is circumstantial evidence. Direct evidence is the testimony from a witness who has actual knowledge of a fact. This is sometimes referred to as an eyewitness. Circumstantial evidence is evidence proved by a chain of events. You should weigh all evidence in the case and give equal weight to both types of evidence. Evidence has been presented to you in this trial through the testimony of witnesses who appeared in person and through depositions or statements under oath. Exhibits were furnished to you as evidence in this case, and in one instance, facts were stipulated to by all the parties, and you must accept the facts which have been stipulated to or agreed upon as having been conclusively proven. You are the sole judge of the credibility of the witnesses. Now we're going to open it up for some questions and answers.
Okay, so how did you do? So, all right. So hopefully you learned a lot or a little bit at least. So now we are going to be answering some questions. So let's see how many people we have. Okay, so if you want to raise your hand or type your question in the chat, and we've got plenty of time for questions. So let's go. Okay. So does anybody?
I have questions.
Okay, is that Denise? Okay, great.
So, about how long is a voice writing program?
Okay, well, again, it depends on your program. The program that I went through, um, we had academics, the court reporting procedures, the court reporting English terminology, plus the voice writing theory and the speed building. My program, they estimate 15 months. But again, once you get to speed building, it kind of just depends on you, on how fast you can get through it, and how much you practice. So, and that's a good question to ask your individual programs as you're looking at. What is the estimated time for completion of your program? So, yeah. So Christine, you want to add, or Jane, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, my program was it was different. I did already have a degree, so affordability, I could not get financial aid. So I couldn't, I wasn't practical for me to pay for a, junior college based program because I was paying out of pocket. So I did utilize a program that was online. It was a 20-week program, but again, in court reporting, um, in all areas, when they say that, that's just classroom time, and you have to understand that it could be much, much longer than that. And mine was, I was able to do it mostly self-paced, and I was a machine student first, so I had knocked some things out of the way. Like in Texas, you don't just pass your speed, but you also have to pass a written knowledge test and study for that. I had already passed my Texas test, but if not, I would have had to have taken time to prep and study for that, because I had had some classes in it, but you still, well, I did. Maybe not everybody, but I had to refresh and learn some new things because the classes that I had, it was, it's an extensive test. So my experience was I can't say it was fast. My voice time and voice school was very short, but I had 3 years of machine school before that. So you can't take anyone's experience hard and fast. And yes, the other areas that you need to have, you may have more requirements if you go to a junior college program. I have friends that started working while they were finishing their associate's degree because they got up to speed. They passed the written knowledge, they could pass their speed test, but they had to finish too because they were relying on financial aid. So ask the program, can you do that? Is that a possibility? And then know yourself, are you going to be able to do that? Put in the time in. And does that mean maybe you don't start working, but you finish school first? So it depends on your program.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
is it the same? Do you have to have a degree in order to work? Like,
No,
okay.
no, you have to, and every state's different. There are, and I forget where are you, Denise?
I'm in Philadelphia.
Okay. I don't know about Philadelphia. Do you know, Jennifer?
I don't know
Okay.
what the requirements are for Pennsylvania, so you might want to reach out to see if there is a licensing board, and reach out maybe to the Court Reporting Association there and see what the requirements are. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like some states require certification, some don't, some,
Yeah. And so you have to know what that is. And some states don't require a certification, but they really want to know you graduated a program. Like you're going to be offered and be able to work with a more lucrative firm. And, I would be weary of an agency that says, you just say you went to school? Sure, come on. I would not want to work for them. And I would hope that you would not either. I've heard that there are a few out there, and I would not trust their reputation for sure.
yeah, great questions. Thank you. Okay, so I see one in the chat. Are there pros of voice writing versus machine steno? Well, I would say a pro of voice writing, like I was talking about, is that because it's utilizing a skill that we've had just about our whole lives, and not having to teach our brain a whole second language, then it is faster to be able to get through those programs. And it was just a better fit for me personally. I mean, it's also, to me, I have kind of seen that maybe voice writing might be a little easier on the body because that might be a pro. Um, yeah, y'all, Jane, Christine, jump in. You can add to what I'm
Jane,
saying.
I can't remember, have you also done machine?
Yes, I did. Yep, I did it for 2 years before voice. Yep.
Yep. So all three of us have done both.
Mhm.
So do you have, sorry, Jane, go ahead. Do you have anything?
I was just Jennifer, were you finished? I was gonna let you
Yes.
finish and then I might come in. Oh, you
No,
were
go
okay.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I as far as like how long is the program? Once you get up to speed, you do want to be up to speed and then passing those speeds, but you can work in states remotely. So even if Philadelphia, for an example, doesn't necessarily recognize voice writers that aren't certified or they're not voice friendly state, you can still work remotely. And I know there's several people across the US who are taking remote depositions and courtroom work. I am a captioner, and so I fell in love with that. I was trained as a court reporter, and then I went into captioning because during my training, my husband had a lateral job.
Oh no.
So that's
I'm sorry, Jane. I don't want to
when
interrupt. Can
I
you
had
repeat?
went into.
I'm sorry, Jane. Can you repeat that you were breaking up?
No, I'm sorry.
You
Okay.
went into
So
captioning because your
what
husband.
part did you? Okay, so my training at court reporting,
Mm-hmm.
I we did a lateral he did a lateral job transfer from Texas to Iowa, and Iowa was not a voice friendly state at that time when I graduated, and now they are. More and more states are coming on board. If I don't know who's been following the news, but last year California came on, and this year, just at the first of the year, Iowa came on board with voice writers. So things are coming. I think there's now 48 states we can work in to some capacity, whether it's freelance or official. There's requirements as far as if you need to have an order or residency. There's different things that I was make when you're also looking at what field you want to go into and see what you need to get to the end goal. I'm sorry, I kind of went off on different areas there, but as far as the program and the length of it really depends on the person. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. As far as the length of the program, I started coaching and training and mentoring about 3 years ago is when I first started. And what I've seen with people and the different students in their lives, everybody's different. And I don't think anybody gets to the end in the same way as far as completing and then going off into work. I've had people who their income while they were going to school, they lost their jobs, so they had to pause training and then come back to it. I've had students who only looked for the financial aid aspect of it, and then, like Christine said, paying out of pocket. And there's a lot of there's people who have surgeries during school. And have babies, and everybody has life. So I would just make sure that whatever school you pick, that you can somehow plan for like a plan B of what happens if one of those unexpected life things happen. So I just want to put that out there that it's different for everybody because everybody has a different dynamic and different priorities.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll hit on Mallory's question about pros and cons of voice and machine, because I think it's important to look at. I have heard of one student, I read a couple of months ago, a student that had been on machine and made a switch to voice and just really didn't like using the mask, and they've gone back to machine. And for them, it's, in my case, I hit a point where I had to start working. I had saved enough for machine school. The information that's out there is spotty because there is nobody with a ton of money that wants to do research on the details of schooling of court reporters. So until we, if somebody's got a rich uncle, that would be great. And maybe somebody that's a data scientist that would be willing to put all that together. That'd be awesome. So I really just had to ask a lot of people, a lot of questions to really understand. And one of the things, I'm 51, and I found out that older students, because like what Jennifer said, it's determined on muscle memory. So on the machine, you're spending a lot of time and it's a lot of repetition on the machine. And with voice, you're spending a lot of time learning your software really well and learning how to utilize it. You do that some on the machine, but it really comes down to muscle memory with the steno and your fingers. Physically, some people have a harder time and have more pains and aches in their back and their neck and their hands. And but then there are some people that have voice issues. I have a friend that just got certified on mask, and she's got some concerns because of a medical thing that's come up with her voice. And she's now considering trying to keep the machine on the back burner so that if something happens with her voice, she can keep going. So those are things to consider. I have another friend. She cannot stand anything on her face. It makes her claustrophobic. Nothing. She won't wear a turtleneck. So she said, Christine, I can't even, like, just thinking about it makes me crazy. So it's not even a possibility for her. And also knowing where it's accepted and not accepted in what states, and asking actual voice writers in those states. I have also found out that they're the only ones that actually know. I have been told by a machine writer, oh, so you're really struggling to work. I was like, nope, not at all. But I realized that they don't know. They really don't know. So those are some more of the, I think, pros and cons. There are to both. There really are. And I will say that even though you also asked the work-life balance, between court and voice writing, which Jennifer can speak to that. As a freelancer, I can say you have to be really careful. Freelance is hard. It's also fantastic, and it's really hard, and it's wonderful, and I love it, hate it. But not enough. I'm not drawn to court. So I'll let Jennifer hit on that one.
So thank you. So as far as the court, it also depends on your judge for the work-life balance if you're an official, because some judges, they want you there 8 to 5, no exceptions. Then there's some judges that if your docket is done at noon, then they take off and they say, bye, get out of here. We don't have anything on the docket. You can go. Or they may not make you come in if you don't have anything on the docket that day. So a big part of it just depends on your judge, how they run their court, because it's up to them. And then also, what kind of court you are in. Are you in a county court, which is a more laid back, slower pace than a district court? Well, some places call them superior court, but in Texas we have the county courts and the district courts, which are the state courts. And I started out in a county court, and it was pretty slow, but it was a great place to get my feet wet for a baby reporter. And I've recently moved up with my judge to a district court, and so I'm on the record a lot more now. We do family and civil law mostly, so we are usually out of there by 5 o'clock. 4:30, 5 o'clock. Criminal case, like the felony criminal courts, they, work a lot longer of hours than we do, because they have lots of more trials than we do. Serious cases, once the jury goes back, that's it. They got to stay. So they've stayed till like 10, 11. I've heard one time it was even like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning waiting on a verdict. So if the answer is, I have a really good work-life balance in my court. But a lot of it too is going to depend on like I said, your judge and the kind of court that you're in, if that makes sense. Okay. And Jane, what about you as a captioner? What can you add to that?
I was just about to answer Christina's question about the income between court reporting and captioning.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
Sorry about that. I was typing, and I'll just go ahead and talk about it. So I have only ever been paid as a captioner, and I can say that as an independent contractor, it is a lot better than being an employed captioner. Like for a large captioning company, if you're an employee, whether part-time or full-time, it's a lot better as an independent contractor. And it can range a lot because it depends on the person and how they are with their agencies that they have their name in their pools. So basically your name is with so many agencies, whoever you want to work with, and then they send out emails, and then that is an email that goes out to everybody, and whoever gets the work first gets the job. And you have to also look at what you're able to do for the job, because there's different connections, there's different subjects, different things that you need to be specialized in. So depending on how wide range your training is or how good you are as far as how much you can do, it kind of vary. I would say that's dependent on how much you make, because you can take on more work. As far as the exact numbers, you would, I would say you could expect, say a full first year, you could expect at least, I want to say at least 60,000, and it would go up from there depending on how you apply yourself and what you're able to do. And I will say personally, for me, my first year I made between April to the end of the year, I made 65,000, and then every year after that's been better. And I'm now in the 6-digit figures as a captioner.
And are you then you would consider like a freelancer then, or independent?
Yes, I am
Right.
independent contractor. So I've been a sole proprietor for the last since 2019. So almost four years. And then I just now started up my own LLC, and I'm kind of growing with that because I'm branching out. I'm doing other things with what I do. So there's always avenues and always ways to do it. You just have to be creative, and you have to be forward thinking. You can't wait for someone to drop things into your lap and do it for you. So that's one thing that I think helps people with their success. And I would say that might be even in court reporting too.
Mhm.
I don't.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Good question. Okay, so I see another question. How much equipment are you carrying from job to job? Well, for me, I have a backpack. Then I carry my laptop. I carry my masks, because I have a primary mask and a couple of backups. I carry my my foot pedal for transcription. I say my laptop, my mask, all the different things like that. So it all fits in my backpack. So, and it just kind of depends on what you do. I bring mine back and forth home every day. Some court reporters leave their stuff set up. I don't, because I live about 35 miles away from my courthouse. So in case something happens, I can always zoom in if I have my equipment. If I didn't have my equipment, then, it's just a just in case type thing. Now, that's what I take back and forth. What about you, Christine? What kind of equipment do you carry for a deposition?
I'm extra. I'm super, very, very extra. So I'm all about redundancy because I do lots of in person, and I'm all over Austin. And even I drove 2 hours to take a job out in the sticks the other day, this last week. And so there's a few cords I have extras of. I also like to work and do my transcript work in coffee shops. So I also have what I need, like my foot pedal and things like that, to do work outside of a deposition. And I don't like to unpack it. I like to have everything mostly stay in my bag. So I drag some extra things with me. So I have one big bag. I'll show you. I got it right here. This is my Zuka bag. Oop. Let me pull out some of my stuff. Show and tell day. This is my Zuka bag. I don't know if you've seen these. I saw them when I was in machine school. A lot of people had them. And I love it for a lot of reasons. It opens up and I just pile things in there. But it's built with this solid frame. So this, you can sit on this and you can also use it as an extra table. I always put this under the table right next to me and pile stuff on top of it. And it also keeps if I've got a witness or an attorney right next to me, they can't kick me or kick my cords under the table. But I have a big, long power cord thing I keep in here. I have a lot of little boxes, like little bags like this that I carry. This has all my masks and has an extra keyboard and a mouse, travel size. And then I have these little bitty things like this that have cords, lots of cords. I'm menopausal, so I always have a USB fan with me, and I'm super popular. I'm going to get a second because I've had a few witnesses that the room's really hot and it's miserable, and meaning not shared, they get my fan. So I want a second one, and I have a backup mask and backup mouthpieces. Because I once had a day that, again, something got unpacked. I went to a job and I didn't have a mouthpiece for my mask, which is this part, which is kind of a big deal. And I didn't have one. And I was 45 minutes from home. And so I sat and I thought like a court reporter, and you just solve problems. And
That's right.
I actually tried it first. I pulled my muffle mitt up and it worked as my mouthpiece. And I took a 2-hour depo like that. And it came out actually pretty good. So, that's kind of what I do. And then my laptop, I have a little laptop bag that I throw in my laptop because I don't trust it in my bouncy bag. So, like I said, there are people that they carry way less than I do, like Jennifer. And what Jennifer carries, I know a lot of people that carry that to depots. And I just like to, when I travel, I carry too much stuff too. So it's your comfort level of what you want.
Right. Great. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Christine, I don't know if you said this or not. So you're freelance, correct?
Yes.
So were you ever an official, or you were freelance from the beginning?
I've only done it, and I'm the newest out of the three of us. I'm finishing up my 9th month as a licensed stenographer. So I've only done freelance work. I did take one hearing, a court hearing, to help out in a pinch. It was remote. I was remote. Everybody else was in person. I've done that once, but I do deposition work. Yeah,
Okay.
I really like it. It's kind of my jam right now.
Great. Okay. How different is your work voice from your everyday voice? Well, as you heard, were you able to hear Karen? Her dictation on that video clip, it's more like that. So if my everyday voice is like this, I'm talking to you and, we're just chatting. And then the dictation voice is more robotic and it's more monotone because that's what Dragon likes. So.
And you'll catch yourself when you go to dictate into your phone to send somebody a message, you
Yeah.
start to talk and it's like your brain knows it's a machine. So you should talk to it like a machine. That
Yeah.
happens.
And I've caught myself saying "pirk" and "cob."
Oh yeah, for periods. My phone knows period means period now. I don't know how it figured it out, but
Yeah, great. So, okay, Christine, there's a deposition question.
Oh yeah, we get this one all the time. How loud are you when you're in a deposition setting? How loud are you when recording? Does it distract from the deposition? I've heard some practices prefer machine over voice for that reason. And I've heard that too. And I will say that there are some voice writers that have been out in the field that have been loud, so loud that people can hear them. And that's a voice writer that wasn't trained well. They're not like, you would be able to hear that if you're checking when you're doing your transcription and working on it. You're going to listen to the room audio. If you have a question in your transcript and you're like, I got to make sure I get this right, you would also hear yourself. And so that's just like a machine writer that's not trained well. And there's some machine writers that are pounders. I was a pounder, but I didn't have an older machine, so it didn't claim, they make the machines now that they can kind of soften your pounding. But there are some that there's a small handful that are going to be heard. The vast majority of us, we don't want to be heard. I work really hard not to be. And I constantly, even if I'm in a room and I'm thinking this is really echoey and really, I mean, when you walk into a deposition room, you're the first one there. Somebody asked how early. I love to get there 45 minutes early at least. If it's really far, it's an hour because something could go wrong. And some people fly in 30 minutes and I don't like that. I like that extra 15-minute cushion, get everything set up. I would rather be bored for 10 minutes before we start. And things will go wrong. They will give you the wrong address. I guarantee you it'll be different on your Apple Maps than Google Maps. Guaranteed. It happened to me this week. So you have to pad that. But as far as being heard, I often will just sometimes turn on YouTube and I will voice write to it and record myself. And I did that when I had a cold over from Thanksgiving to Christmas. I had a really bad cold, and to push, I sounded like I was going through puberty. I was a boy going through puberty and my voice was cracking. And so I had to give it a little bit more oomph to be heard and for my stuff to drop into Dragon. So I listened to myself a lot because I felt like I was yelling and I wasn't. But I knew I was louder. I will sometimes wear a headset. If it's there's a lot of reasons sometimes I wear a headset. If I'm needing to check audio, if I'm worried about the room acoustics and I want to be able to play a room audio, and depending on the type of headset you have. One thing that's weird, if any of you tried this earlier, when you have something up against your face, you're still hearing your voice. So you're like, I'm loud, but we hear ourselves inside the bone vibration in our head. You're hearing yourself in your head. So it's really hard to know. Now I know. I've done it long enough. I kind of know what that level is, but you throw one little headpiece on your ear and you sound louder to yourself. So again, you kind of have to learn that.
Right.
But I have people all the time look at me and say, are you talking into that thing?
Yes.
All the time. They see my mouth moving. They see my eyebrows going up and down. And because I try not to be expressive, but it's when it gets feisty, you get kind of, I'm grinding it out. So I also, when I walk into a room and it's dead silent, when you're setting up for a deposition, every time I get like a sinking feeling in my stomach, I'm like, I can hear me blink. Of course they're going to hear me, but I also always have my USB fan, which is a tiny little bit of white noise. And once people get in the room, people are loud. They shuffle papers, they cough, they clear their throat, they bounce their legs. I am always on my keyboard, scrolling on my mouse. And so it's amazing how much all that ambient noise, you're just ambient noise. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But if you're a good court reporter, you'll always worry about it because
Great.
it's important. You don't want to be a distraction.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So last question, it is 12 o'clock, so we'll leave with one more question. Ballpark, how much practice time did you put in to gain speed? Me personally, I was practicing between 2 and 3 hours a day when I was in school. So, and that's how I was able to get through the speeds quickly, is because you do it, the more you practice, the faster you'll get done. So what about you, Christine? How much did you practice?
I practiced at least that much. I was highly motivated by the time I moved to it. And the advantage of voice is your practice time goes a million times farther than on machine, because on machine, you're still learning constantly. And with voice, the things you're learning are far less. So you're tweaking faster. So yeah, I was very, very determined, and I practiced on weekends to keep fresh. On weekends, probably not as much, maybe half an hour. But also quality practice is
Yes.
not to podcasts, TV. It's to actual practice dictations that are at a sustained speed. I want to put that out there.
Right.
Jane, what about you?
I practiced whenever I could. I had 3 babies under 3 at that time. And so it was usually at night when my husband was home, and then I could go to our living area downstairs and just be alone and not be interrupted, and work during the night. So then during the day when they napped, I would nap. So it was as much as you possibly can, I would say do it, because even when you're out working, you're realizing you're still learning and you're still progressing and you're still upping your skills. So there's never a point where you're done learning and you're done getting to the point where you should be. You're like, I'm doing this for 7 years now. I'm still learning and I'm still going at it. So I would say that I wouldn't limit yourself to how much. I would just do as much as you possibly can, and then you will know as you go along where you're at.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. That our time is up, but I want to thank Christine and Jane for helping me field the Q&A. And if any of you have more questions, you can email me at the email where you got the link. And I will be sending you a follow-up email soon. So be looking for that. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. So
Bye, everybody.
bye-bye.